Take a look at this. This guy is driving his car on top of a lake. A frozen lake, that is. And this isn't just any car either. This is an Aston Martin, which is a super fancy car that can cost more than $100,000. Would you trust the ice to hold up a car like that? Well, the good news is he's doing a whole lot better than this person. I'm not really sure what they were trying to do here, but it definitely wasn't this. And here's one more clip. This one isn't a car, but a plane. Watch as it flies straight through these clouds. Whoosh. Now let's think about all three of the clips you just watched. We saw a car driving on a frozen lake, a car falling into a lake, and a plane flying through a cloud. What do all three of these clips have in common? Well, all of these clips involved water. Sure, the water was different in each of them, but each one had water. The first clip involved a car driving on ice, which is just frozen water, while the second clip involved a car driving into liquid water. And the last clip showed a plane flying through clouds, and we know clouds are just made of water that's in the air. Now, these three different types of water we just saw are examples of the three different states of matter that can exist. The definition of states of matter is it's the different ways that matter can exist. Let's explain through some examples. We generally think that there are three states of matter: solids, which are things like ice, rocks, or hammers; liquids, which are things like water, oil, or milk; and gases, which are like clouds, the helium inside of balloons, or the air that you breathe. Can you brainstorm a list of more solids, liquids, and gases? See how many you can come up with. Now, you may have come up with a bunch of different things, but it all points to an interesting question. We know that all matter, regardless of its state, is made of tiny little particles. And we know that ice, water, and clouds are all just water. And if these are all water, then that means they're just made up of water particles. And if they're all made up of water particles, shouldn't they all act the same? How are they so different? How is it that a car can drive on top of ice, but it sinks in liquid water? And how is it that a plane can fly through a cloud without even really noticing it? If these are all just made of water particles, why do they act so differently? Let's stop for a brain check. Ice, water, and clouds are all made of the three main states of matter are, and now we can dive into our big question for today. If ice, water, and clouds are all made of water particles, why are they so different? Well, it turns out that particles in different states of matter, in solids, liquids, and gases, are all arranged in special ways. In a solid, the particles look like this. They are all really close together and stuck together in this tight pattern. Because of this, look what happens. If I have this marker, which is a solid, it looks like a marker, even if I put it in a cup, or if I take that marker and dump it into a bowl. No matter what I do, it always looks like the marker. In fact, we can say that matter which is solid has a fixed shape. That means its shape does not change. When I poured the marker from a cup to a bowl, it stayed the shape of a marker. We can also say solids have a fixed size. The size of the marker never changed, and I can't make it bigger or smaller. The definition of a solid is matter with tightly packed particles that are stuck together, and matter that has a fixed shape and size. The next type is liquids. This is what the particles in liquids look like. The particles are close together, but unlike a solid, they're not stuck together, so they can move and slide around. This gives liquids a special ability. Look at this cup of water. The water right now is the shape of a cup, but if I take that and I pour it into a bowl, well, now the water is the shape of a bowl. And if I pick up the bowl and pour it back into the cup, well, the water will change right back into the shape of the cup. So what you can say about liquids is that they have a fixed size, meaning they can't ever get bigger or smaller, but their shape can change. They can switch shape from a bowl to a cup to whatever you put them in. The definition of a liquid is matter that has packed particles but that are free to move. And liquids have a fixed size, but they can change their shape. The last type of matter is gas. This is what the particles in gas look like. The particles are far apart. There's lots of space between them. The particles are also constantly flying around. And this gives gas some interesting properties. Watch here. This balloon is filled with air, a gas. Right now that air is the shape and size of the balloon. But when I open up the balloon, the gas rushes out. Even though you can't see it, that gas is now filling the entire room. So gases can change their size to go from the size of a balloon to the size of an entire room, and they can also change their shape. The definition of a gas is matter that has loose particles which are flying around, and that it can change its size and shape. Let's stop for a brain check. In a liquid, the particles of matter are... Which of the following are true about solids? Gases can. Now it's time to wrap up with a conclusion. If ice, water, and clouds are all made of water particles, why are they so different? Well, as we've learned, it has to do with how the particles are arranged. In solid ice, like we saw in this clip, the particles are all stuck together. So when the car is on top of it, the particles don't move. The car just sits on top of the ice. However, in a liquid, the particles are free to move. When the car sits on top of the liquid, the particles start moving around and they make space for the car. The car sinks to the bottom and the particles can fill in on top or around the car. Then in a gas, there are not very many particles. They're very far apart. So when the plane flies, it just isn't hitting that many water particles, so it doesn't impact the plane in any real way. So the thing to remember from today is that states of matter are caused by how particles of matter are arranged. Let's stop for a final brain check. Ice is different than liquid water because the particles in liquid water are blank compared to in clouds. That's all for today.